for attending the class and thank you for connecting. The plan for today is very similar from the previous days. So it is a free class and the objective is to help, and we have people with lots of different levels of English and from different places around the world. So the plan and the opportunity is to help at the moment. During the pandemic, everybody is at home, working from home, and it's a very good opportunity. So the structure is very similar today compared to yesterday, and we will look at an introduction in relation to grammar. Then we will analyze an article from the newspaper, and we have some phrasal. But first, I want to say that I hope we have no problem with the internet. I hope there's no problem with the connection, with the technology, because sometimes there's always possibilities. So I hope you can understand me, and I hope the connection is good. Also, I hope we have no big disruption. We have family at home, 7 people at home, and also the dog. So it's possible you can hear the dog during the class, but this is the plan for today. So first, every morning we have the free classes at 11:15 in the morning in Dublin, but today at 4 p.m. I have another class. So today is the first opportunity to create another class, and it is specifically in relation to the advanced exams. So probably the content will be from the Cambridge exam and from the Escuela Oficial de Idiomas in Spain. So today at 4 o'clock is the first class. The idea is to continue every week with a class specifically for the advanced, probably on Thursday. Okay, for example, on Friday at the same time, 4 o'clock in Dublin, 5 o'clock Madrid, 1 o'clock Sao Paulo, 11 o'clock in Vietnam, Thailand and Jakarta, 11 a.m. in Lima and Bucharest, 6 p.m. So for example, on Friday, my plan is a business class at this time at 4 o'clock in Dublin, specifically a class, a group for business, and it is possible to connect. 1 week you can connect when you want. It's not obligatory to attend every week. It's a good idea, this concept. You can attend 1 week, you can skip the next week, so it's available to attend when you want. Saturday, probably earlier, but Saturday we will focus on the B2 exams. So again, the Cambridge content and the Escuela Oficial de Idiomas for level B2. Okay, that's the plan for Saturday. On Monday, definitely at 4 o'clock in Dublin, we will concentrate on a class specifically for grammar. So we will just focus and dedicate the class to topics from grammar, and everybody is available, all levels, and that will be the plan for the class extra on Monday, including the class free in the morning. Okay, Tuesday, probably we will focus on football and sports. So English in relation to football and sports, specifically a class dedicated to this on Tuesday at 4 p.m. in Dublin, and also on Wednesday at 4 p.m. in Dublin we will dedicate a class specifically for the IELTS exams. So that is my plan at the moment. I'm using Eventbrite, so it's a possibility with Facebook to create this class. The class will be on Zoom in the afternoon with Eventbrite, and it's very, very valuable, very good, affordable and very good economic prices, I suppose. So the price will be €2.90 if you want to attend. You need to buy a ticket on the website. It's a possible Eventbrite, and possible through Facebook you can connect and register for the class, and it's quite cheap and very good value, and we will focus on a lot of material. So that's the plan. Again, it's a rolling class, so it's possible for you to attend when you want. You can attend this week, you can cancel next week, so you can decide. You pay as you go. That's the idea, and this is my plan. So also, Eventbrite charge commission. So for example, it's $2.90 for you, but I receive $1.80, approximately $1.80. So Eventbrite take €1. So part of this, if you want to avoid the fee for me, it's possible you can pay through Revolut directly to me, or pay directly with PayPal, Bizum or bank transfer directly to me, and you can communicate with me and I will accept your registration and we will exchange the details for the event. Okay, so again, that's the plan. Starting today at 4 o'clock in Dublin, we have a class dedicated specifically for the advanced exam, and you can see the information in the event section of my Facebook page and also on the Eventbrite page. So it's easy to access. Just click on the event and it should direct you to the page for registration. Okay, so today again, it's a good idea if you want to attend for the advanced exam. Okay, so I'm happy because I have experience with many people preparing these exams, and I understand a lot of people want to dedicate specifically for the Cambridge exams, the Escuela Oficial de Idiomas exams and the advanced level. So I want to offer different opportunities, different classes for specific people and specific groups. So that is my plan starting from today. Okay, so I hope you can see the information, and I would love you to attend. I would really like you to attend, and you do not have to be at advanced level. Every level, all levels are welcome, and if you just have a general interest, you are also welcome, because during the class you will definitely learn a lot of similar things in English. So it will be valuable for everybody, but the focus specifically will be exercises from the Cambridge and Escuela Oficial de Idiomas advanced exercises. Okay, it will be possible to participate. So during the meetings on Zoom, if you want to participate in the afternoon, you just raise your hand and you can ask questions in the Zoom meetings in the afternoon. For today, if you want to participate in this morning's class, it's possible here. This is the ID and the code for this morning for now. And for me, it's very good if I have 3 or 4 people at least to connect with Zoom, because I think Zoom closes the meeting if there's 40 minutes of inactivity with participants. So for me, it's good if you want to connect. Today we have the ID and the passcode for the class for this morning, and also every morning in the event section on my page I put the link directly for the Zoom meeting if you want to prepare and to access the meeting early. Okay, so this is the information for today, and hopefully you can connect by Zoom. So the schedule and the plan will be very similar, very similar structure, very similar plan. So today it's just a little introduction for the grammar. Then we will continue with an article from the BBC News, and the topic is Reddit. So social media company. Obviously, well, I am more familiar with Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. I am not familiar with Reddit really, but I know it's popular, and the article today is in relation to Reddit, and you can see some important vocabulary and important expressions. Also, it's possible we have other options for phrasal verbs. We can analyze phrasal verbs, idioms and speaking practice as well. So again, if you want to join by Zoom, it would be great for me. And we have a letter from Maria. Again, yesterday my intention was to look at the letter, but finally we did not have time yesterday, and today we will probably continue with the letter. I hope you can understand me. I apologize if it's difficult to understand me. There are subtitles available and there are captions available if you want to follow my conversation. The majority of the captions are correct, but there are some errors in relation to the subtitles, but they are probably better to use the subtitles in Facebook Live. Okay, so that's the plan. So let's begin. I will share my screen, and first you can see the introduction document. So again, a lot of you are probably very familiar with the structure of this document. For me, it's a very important document. There are 3 areas that are fundamental. The first area is use of English. The second area in yellow are tenses, different times that we speak in English, and the final area is just different grammar topics and different grammar concepts that are necessary to understand. So especially at the beginning of the class, it's important you are familiar, you are aware of the technical vocabulary, because during the class I mention and I use the technical vocabulary a lot. So seriously, at the beginning, it's very important you are aware, and probably a lot of you are familiar with the concepts already, but people with different levels, this is very important. For example, phrasal verb, idiom, prepositions, past perfect, present continuous, future simple, substantive, adjective, adverb, modal verbs. Now I will explain very briefly the concepts and the ideas for these terms. Okay, so at the top you can see the use of English, and really I think this area is possibly the most important area when you learn English. So I'll just try to make the screen a little bit bigger as well, so everybody can see. So for me, the use of English, I think, is probably the most important area when you learn English, because in the use of English category we have different English around the world. So the accents in Ireland, the accents in the United States, the accents in London, Manchester, Glasgow, Canada. We have very, very different accents, and in every city you have people with different levels of English, and you have different accents and different velocities. So to understand speaking is very, very hard, and for this reason I think it's maybe the most difficult issue and the most difficult topic when you are studying English. Okay, so for me, and in Dublin, accents, we have a few particular accents that are very strong, and the U maybe is quite strong. For example, Dublin, butter, bus. In Dublin it's possible to hear the U very, very strong, and the rule, phonetic rule in the book is maybe Dublin, butter, bus. So just be careful with my pronunciation in relation to the U. Also the TH is possibly very strong in Dublin, similar to a sound of the D. For example, this, that, these, those, like a D. But obviously the rule in the phonetics would be like the, this, that, these, those. So just be careful and be conscious of the pronunciation for me of the TH, and also possibly in Ireland as well. The OU is maybe very strong as well. For example, mouse, house. So sometimes in Ireland it's very strong and very elongated, but phonetically it might be a little bit different. Okay. So yes, this area, use of English, is very important. So after the accents we have phrasal verbs, and phrasal verbs are very particular to English and very unique to English, and we use phrasal verbs every moment, all the time, with family, with friends, social situations, professional situations, movies, series. We use phrasal verbs all the time, and basically the concept is the verb plus the preposition, and it's possible literal significance, but there is a possible second different, completely different significance. Okay, that's the trick, that's the hard difficulty and the hard part of the phrasal verb. There is a second significance, and one example is a difficult example: set up. So set is very flexible verb. It's like prepare, set the table, set the alarm, set your organization, set your books. So it's like to prepare and to fix, but with the preposition up, the significance is to organize or to create. Set up a business, set up a meeting, set up a Zoom call. It's to organize or to create. Okay. Idioms. Again, idioms, we have thousands of idioms, and we use idioms all the time to make English more comfortable, to make English more fluent and more cohesive. The idioms are sometimes entertaining, they are sometimes funny, and idioms are a big, big part of English. And again, one example is a couch potato. So you need to be clear with the difference between a couch and a coach. So here I have my notes also at the bottom. So a couch is like a sofa, and a couch is a sofa, and that's the significance of the first word, couch. Like ouch, when you have an impact and you have pain, you say ouch, but here's with the couch. But we have another word which looks similar but it's completely different: a coach. Okay, a coach is a trainer in sports, in gymnastics, in swimming. You have a coach, but the sofa, the pronunciation is a couch. So a couch potato is the expression for the person who stays at home all the time, no activity, no work, no exercise. They sit on the sofa, they sit on the couch, similar to a potato. No movement, no activity, and that's one example of an idiom. And again, idioms and phrasal verbs are a big part of English, and we use them all the time, and they are an area that is worth focusing on, and is definitely worth studying to really improve your English and to master and to control conversation at every moment. Okay, conversation and pronunciation is also key. So yes, to learn English you have to study, you have to read, you have to listen, you have to write, and you have to speak. So it's very important that you practice speaking. Sometimes it's difficult to find a person. For example, if you are in Romania, maybe it's difficult to find an English speaker. If you are in Indonesia, maybe it's difficult, and especially at the moment with no traveling. But with the internet, there are lots of possibilities, and I recommend that you try to practice your speaking as much as possible. During the class here, it is possible to participate, especially at the end of the class. There is usually the option to participate, to practice your speaking a little. And again, pronunciation is a big part of English. We have a lot of irregular pronunciation, so during the class I try to identify the important and the key issues in relation to pronunciation, because sometimes English is not phonetic compared to Spanish. For example, Spanish is very phonetic, so English, we have a lot of irregular pronunciations. Okay, the next area are tenses. So different times in English. When you speak, do you speak in the present? Do you speak in the past? Do you speak in the future? Do you speak in the hypothetical? So these tenses and these concepts of time are very important, and every language is the same. I think you have to be aware of the different time. And in English we have some different concepts. For example, the simple, the continuous, number 2. So simple, number 1, continuous, number 2, perfect, number 3, the infinitive, conditionals, and the active and the passive. We have one more at the end, which is called reflexive, or the gerund also is here. They are terms that you need to be very familiar with. Basically, the gerund is the ing, eating, drinking, swimming, going, talking. That's the gerund. And reflexive is a particular group of verbs where it's possible myself, yourself, for example, wash myself, shower myself. There are some verbs that are possible reflexive, and that area is important. But basically the simple is one action that you do in the, we have the past simple, we have the present simple, and we have the future simple also. So the simple is one action in the present simple, and the past simple, one action you did in the past, and the future simple, one action in the future. The difficulty, especially in the past, we have a lot of irregular verbs in the past simple, and this is a big challenge and a big difficulty. There are 2 constructions for the future simple. There are 2 possibilities. The most common is will. I will go, I will eat, I will have. That's the most common. There is a second possibility, going to eat, going to drink, going to have. They are 2 constructions for the future simple. We also have the concept of the continuous, which is one action you do continuously in the present period, one action you do continuously in the past period, and one action you do continuously in the future period. The construction is the subject, the extra auxiliary verb to be, and the gerund of the verb. For example, future continuous, I will be eating, I will be going, I will be having. Present continuous, I am eating, I am going, I am talking. Past continuous, I was eating, I was drinking, I was having. So that is the concept of the simple and the continuous. The next idea is the perfect, and we have maybe the most common is the present perfect, which is the period in the time in the past before it's finished, but it is related to the present. Okay, and the construction is have plus the participle. For example, I have eaten my breakfast, so it's the period and it is finished, but it is related and relevant to now, because at the moment I am not hungry. So that's the significance and the importance of the present perfect. So it's finished, but it is related to now. And then we have the past perfect, which is the period of time in the past, usually before another action in the past simple, and the construction is had. So I had eaten, I had gone, you had spoken, had plus the participle of the verb. And one example is, I had eaten my breakfast before my friend contacted me. It is possible in the future. We have the future perfect. I will have eaten my dinner when my friend will arrive. So it's a little advanced, particularly the perfect in the future. But it is important to be aware and to be conscious of this, because I think in most languages you have similar concepts also. But in the beginning, it's important to explain the technical vocabulary to you and to everybody, just to refresh, okay? The infinitive. So during the class I mentioned the infinitive a lot, and basically the infinitive is the verb in the base, the verb in the foundation form, and usually in English it's to eat, to go, to have, to drink, to talk. This is the infinitive with to. Okay, so that's important to remember. The conditionals are a big area, and every day I say the same, because the conditionals in the book are very complicated, very heavy with the theory. We have a lot of rules with the conditionals in the book, and sometimes it's very, very boring, very hard, very discouraging. You lose your motivation sometimes when you study the conditional. But my advice and my opinion, in reality, conditionals are more flexible. In reality, conditionals are less strict. Basically, it's connected to if. Okay, if and the different times. If it rains today, I will wear my jacket. So this is the concept of the conditional. And in reality, it is quite flexible, and it is a bit difficult for the theory in the book. Okay? And during the class we have the possibility to analyze the conditionals little by little, and especially it's an idea for a specific grammar class. We can concentrate on the conditionals in particular. Okay, the active and the passive are important to be aware of and to be conscious of. So the active is typically the verb, the subject, the verb and the object. That's the active, the ordinary sentence. I drink the milk. Then the passive, it's necessary to change the position. The milk, introduce an extra verb to be. The milk is, and then the participle of the original verb, drunk by me. So the concept of the active and the passive is you change the position of the subject and the object. You also introduce an extra verb auxiliary to be, and you also use the participle of the original verb. Okay, so the active and the passive is important to be conscious of also. They are the most important tenses and the most important times. The next area is just extra grammar issues and extra grammar topics. For example, it's fundamental and it's so important that you understand the concept of a noun. And here in English we have a noun. In Spanish it's substantivo, but a noun in English basically is a person, a place, or a thing. A lot of nouns, almost everything is a noun. For example, jacket, shirt, tie, head, ring, hand, noun, all nouns. Every noun you need an article, and in English we have two articles. We have the definite article and the indefinite article. The definite article is the. So for example, shirt or jacket, the jacket. Okay, the shirt, the tie. So that's the definite article. But the indefinite article is a or a. So the pronunciation is possible in the two, a jacket or a jacket. Okay, but we have one rule, and the rule generally is when the substantive begins with the vowel. So here you can see the vowel a, so a, e, I, o, u. When the substantive or the noun begins with a vowel, the article is necessary an. Okay, so that's a little irregular rule. And here you can see indefinite article, a house, and the definite article, the house. Okay, so the next concept or the next idea is countable and uncountable. So you need to be familiar with the concept of the noun that you can count and the noun that is impossible to count. For example, hand. One hand, yes. Two hands, yes. Three hands, it's possible to count hand. So hand is countable, and this is relevant in relation to many and much. How many hands? But how much hands is not possible. because how much is for uncountable, and uncountable nouns are water, money, chocolate, air. For example, one air, no, it's impossible to count air. Chocolate, one chocolate, no, it's impossible to count chocolate, because we count one bar of chocolate, one piece of chocolate. So that's the idea of the countable and uncountable nouns, and this is very important in relation to how much and how many. So how much is related to uncountable, and how many is related to countable. So that's an important concept for sure. Adjective, so noun, article, and the position of the adjective is before the substantive or before the noun, and the function of the adjective is to describe the noun. So the house, the big house. So the adjective is before the noun, and we have thousands and thousands of adjectives, but this point is important because particularly in Spanish and Portuguese, the position of the adjective is different compared to English. The position in Spanish and the position in Portuguese, I think the majority of the time the adjective is after the substantivo or the noun, but in English it's before in general, okay? The adverb, so the function of an adverb in English is to describe the verb. So we have a lot of verbs: drink, talk, eat, go, verbs, 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 and the adverb is describing the verb, and typically the adverb ends in ly, and we have a few examples: quickly, slowly, softly. So speak, I speak quickly, I drink slowly. So the adverb complements and it describes the verb. So that concept is very important. Modal verbs are very, very particular to English, and maybe you are familiar with the concept of a modal verb, but basically we have a list of special verbs called modal verbs, and they are used in particular situations. For example, can is related to ability. I can drink a lot of coffee, it's my ability. I can contact my friend. Ability and also permission. So I can enter the room, I can go to the cinema, I have permission and ability. I can play the piano. So that's important verb for sure. The negative of can, when we write, it should be cannot. So formal and very correct. Can is the verb, and when you write, it's necessary to say cannot. It's necessary to write cannot when you are writing. But in informal situations, in text messages, in conversation, in newspapers, it is definitely possible can't. Okay, but more correct and more formal, especially in writing, is cannot. So that's the modal verb can. Could, may, and might are very, very similar, and they are related to possibility. I could go to the cinema. It's an option, it's a possibility. It could rain today. It's an option, it's a possibility. I may contact my friend. I might contact my friend. Possibilities and options. The only difference really, may and might are possibly a little more formal and a little more polite. That's the only real difference between the three, okay? Shall is very similar to will, and for the question, shall we have coffee? Shall we go to the cinema? Shall we contact our friend? It's a question, will. It's probably formal and it's probably old English, but it is important to be aware and to be familiar with, because we use shall all the time also. Should and ought to have almost the same significance. So yes, they have the same significance. The pronunciation is different. This is should, and it's typical for recommendation and advice. You should watch the movie. You should contact your friend. You should take a holiday. It's my advice and my recommendation. So the pronunciation of the second verb is difficult because the G is silent, and the pronunciation is ought. So you ought to have a holiday. You ought to contact your friend. You ought to read this book. It's my advice and my recommendation. Exactly the same significance as should. Must is obligation. So you must collect the children. You must enter the competition. You must eat your dinner. It's an obligation and you have no choice. It's the same to say you have to. Tener que in Espanol. You have to collect the children. You have to eat your dinner. You have to watch this movie. You have no choice. It's obligation. So the you, the pronunciation for me possibly is strong. Must. So phonetically it's maybe must. So just be careful with me and the pronunciation of the you, and also in Ireland as well. Okay, very, very good. Prepositions are very, very important, and prepositions are a big part of English. We use prepositions every moment, all the time, and they are so important when you learn English. Basically, they are related to movement, they are related to direction, and they are related to position. So we use prepositions all the time. They look very simple because they are very small words, but they play a big, big part in English. Prepositions are a fundamental block, a fundamental part of understanding English. So, for example, speak. It's the verb, it's the action, but I need direction. I speak to you. Okay, look. Look is the action, look is the verb, but you need direction. I look at the television. I look at the computer. So prepositions are very important, especially in phrasal verbs. So remember, the concept of the phrasal verb is the verb and the preposition. It's possible literal significance, and it's possible a second completely different significance, but the preposition usually is associated with emotion. For example, up is positive, up is happy, so it's possible to say everything is looking up. That's a good example of a phrasal verb. Everything, the weather, life, everything is looking up, and that means everything is positive, everything is good, you are optimistic. And again, down is negative, down is sad, depressing, destruction. So there is a connection with emotion and the movement and the preposition. Okay, again, the next area is very important. This area is called pronouns. So you have a subject pronoun. This is very technical. Subject pronoun is I, you, he, she. Object pronoun, me, you, him, her, us. Possessive adjective, my hat, your hat, his hat, our hat. But then we have the possessive object, which is it is mine, it is yours, it is his, it is hers. So you can see my explanation is difficult because it's a hard area, but there's a big confusion when you learn English, especially between he, she, his, hers, him, her. So you need to be very, very sure and very secure with this area of pronouns and possessive pronouns. So this is the area you can see here. And again, during a grammar class, I can dedicate more time in a specific grammar class that will be available soon, that we can look at grammar issues in particular. And if you have requests, you can ask me to focus on something in particular as well. So the difference between this, that, these and those, you need to be concrete and you need to be sure with the difference between this, that, these and those. Basically it's position and singular and plural. This is singular here, that is singular there, these is singular plural here, and those is plural away. So this, that, these and those is very important. It sounds like a song. I think I could nearly do a dance with the sound, but it is very important, the difference. This is singular, that is singular in a different position. These is plural here, and those is plural in a different position. Okay, so there is another difference between another, other, the other, and the others. So sometimes this is very confusing. We have a lot of important topics in English, and this is another example that is maybe confusing, but at the same time it's very, very important, and it's very obvious when the people make the error. It's a very small word, but it's a very common error, and it's very obvious when you make the confusion. So another is basically for singular noun, another day, another week, another year. Other is usually for the plural substantive or plural noun, other weeks, other days, other years. It's a simple difference, but the mistake is very common. Okay. Then we have the possibility of the other. So when you have a choice of two things, do you want to go to this movie or do you want to go to the other movie? So when you have a selection of two, it's possible to use the other. Okay? And then finally, it is possible to say the others, which is a significance for a group. So do you want to take the class with us? Do you want to take the class with them, or do you want to take the class with the others? So just be careful and be conscious, and probably some of you for sure are very familiar with that already. My advice and my tip when you are studying English, the area of the suffixes and prefixes for me is a big indicator, a big help to study English. It identifies the different form of the word. Is the word a verb? Is it adjective? Is it adverb? Is it noun? So the suffix is a big indicator to show you the structure of the verb. And for example, ance is typical substantive. The importance, that's an example of substantivo or noun, the importance. ize is a typical suffix for the verb. To monetize, to realize, to fantasize, that's a typical suffix, and it's at the end. So fix is like you put, I fix the table to the wood. So fix has the significance to put together, and that's the significance of the suffix, because it's at the end you put the word. Okay, able is typical for adjective. For example, manageable, that's one typical suffix for adjective. Suffix ly is typical for adverb, slowly, quickly, happily, rapidly. Pre is typically before, substantive, pre-match, pre-class, and etc. We have a lot of adjectives in the negative that have the irregular prefix, and here's an example: impossible and unbelievable. So two adjectives, two negative adjectives, but the prefixes are irregular and the prefixes are different. So for me, it's a big area to be conscious of and to be aware, and I recommend to, if when you're learning English, to be very familiar with this. Okay, so I think that's definitely a good introduction for today. They are the most important topics and the most important technical terms for English. So I hope that gives you inspiration to study. I hope that gives you a guide to learn, and that's overall, that's a view of English. Okay, so for example, phrasal verbs, idioms, past perfect, present continuous, past continuous, modal verbs, prepositions, adjectives. So you need to be very sure with the terms when you are studying a language. Okay, exams preparation. So as you have seen, I have now classes available specifically for exams, and today at 4 o'clock in Dublin I will dedicate one particular class to the advanced exam, and you can join. It's a little fee, a little charge to join, but it will be dedicated specifically for the advanced exam, and that's my plan every week, to have classes in the afternoon specifically focusing on different topics. And there's the Cambridge exams, the IELTS exams, the first certificate, the advanced certificate, and the proficiency. And writing is important also, and one student has already submitted or sent some writing, and hopefully if we have time today we can look at some writing. Okay, so that is the explanation for the grammar. Actually now is the best time, I think. Why not? Because you're familiar with the text. So I'm confused if I should do this or if I should look at the article. Now maybe, because for vocabulary reasons, maybe it's better to look at the article. So this article is from the BBC News website, so very good quality English and very clear, very direct, very good vocabulary to study and to learn. So here is the topic, and the topic is the social media website Reddit, and the title is Reddit Chief. So basically a chief is like the boss, but in business we have the chief executive, and the CEO is the chief executive officer. But a chief is similar to the boss or the manager, but it's possible in informal situations with your friends, like in Spain you can say hombre, tío, caballero. It's possible in English to say chief. How are you, chief? And that's very informal, but the significance is friend, mate. So we have a lot of little words that we can describe our friends, and chief is one informal word to call your friend. Okay, but in this situation it's formal, and it's the boss. So the boss or the executive of Reddit. I was late, so this is the past simple of the verb to be, late to spot. So this is very important vocabulary. To spot is the verb, and also the substantive is very common as well as spot. So number one for teenagers, when you are a teenager, It's possible the skin, you have problems with the skin and you have a spot. For example, me, this is a very beautiful spot I have on my head. So spot is possible for teenagers and for the face, number one. But it's also possible for food. When you're eating, you can have a spot of chocolate, is a little piece of chocolate, number two. But the verb is a similar context, because you are looking for your friend. You are at the party and you cannot find your friend, and you look and eventually you spot your friend. So to spot has the significance to identify your friend or to identify something. Okay, so to spot has the significance to identify, but also the substantive, it's possible for a place. So you look at the map. This is the map of Lima in Peru, or this is a map in La Paz in Bolivia, and you look at the map and you see a nice spot for a restaurant. This is a nice spot, this is a nice spot. You are a constructor and you want to build a construction. You look at the map again and you try to identify a spot. So spot has the significance of location, so it's a very flexible word. And informal as well, it's possible to spot a friend, which has a completely different significance in relation to money, and the significance is to lend money. So if I spot you, the significance is I give you money, I cover the money for you. So we are in the restaurant and the total is €20 and I spot you, so I pay for your money. That's very common in conversation, so you can see the difficulty with English and the difficulty of the use of English and the different context. So to spot a friend is to give a friend some money, and you need to be very clear with the difference between to lend and to borrow. So there is a big difference in English between lend and borrow. In Spanish it's prestar y dar a prestar. So in Spanish you have two differences. In Portuguese I am not sure, but really there's a big difference in English between lend and borrow, and it's a typical confusion. So you need to be very clear. So for example, my telephone, I have my telephone, but I lend you my telephone. So that's significant. I give you my telephone for you to use, and after you use my telephone, you return my phone. So I lend you the phone and you borrow my phone. So there's a massive difference between the two, and when you confuse the two, it's a very big error and it's a very obvious mistake. So you need to be very clear between to lend and you borrow. Okay, so typical preposition is lend to, and that helps direction. I lend to you and you borrow from me. Okay, so little detail, but at the same time very important. So lend to and borrow from is very key and very important. And also there is another verb, to loan, and this is typical in the bank more. Well, lend and loan are possible in the bank, but loan is the same concept as to lend. I loan you my jacket, I loan you my telephone, so you can use my telephone, you can use my jacket, but it's necessary for you to return my jacket or to return the money. Okay, so that's important. And in relation to financial vocabulary and the bank, you need to be sure with the mortgage. So the pronunciation is difficult. The T is almost silent. I think originally mort is a French word for dead and death, similar to Spanish muerte, but in English mortgage is the name of the loan, hipoteca, I think in Espanol. So you go to the bank and you obtain a mortgage, so it's a lot of money to pay your house, because mort, death is related, because probably you continue to return the money until you die. So I think that's maybe the connection with mortgage, but the vocabulary is important. Okay. Stock mania. So stock is typical for the bolsa. So we have a stock market, and the stock market is the place where you exchange and you transfer the stocks, acciones in Espanol. The acciones and accionista is like a stock or the share or a shareholder. So difficult vocabulary. Basically a share in the substantive is an accione, which is very similar. It is the same as a stock. Okay, number one in financial situations. But remember, the verb is possible as well, to share. the verb to share is very important, and it's typical with food. I have a big cake, I have a lot of chocolate, and I want to share my chocolate. I want to give the chocolate to other people. But stock is more flexible, because with products in the shop, it's possible the product is in stock or out of stock. So stock is related to the shop. We also have a stock room. It's the place where you put, it's the room where you put the products. Okay, so in stock means it's available with the products. Out of stock means you do not have. So it's flexible, and it's very important to stock the room, or sorry, fridge maybe. To stock the fridge with food is a very good example. So the fridge is empty, and you go to the shop and you buy food and you stock the fridge with food. So now the fridge is stocked, adjective. Okay, you can say the person is from good stock, and the significance is maybe a family. The lady is from a good family. They are very polite, they're very conscious, they're very nice people. So you are from good stock has the significance. You are from a good family. So you can see it's flexible, and the other one was out of stock. If the product is out of stock, it's not available. Okay, but in this case, it's related to the shares of the company, and mania is very similar, I think, in Latin languages, like crazy. So the story last week, I think a lot of people were buying the shares and the stocks, and the price was very high. So that's the title of the news article. So I think this is the chief. This is the boss of Reddit. And now we will look at some vocabulary. So again, boss is a synonym of chief. Has told. So here's a good example. It's the present perfect. The verb is to tell. The present perfect is the extra verb have plus the participle. And because it's the third person, I have, you have, he has. So he has told. It started in the past. It's finished. But it is related to now because the article is today. So that's a very good example of the present perfect. A little difficult, but really technically important. It is very similar in this case to say told, the past simple. So in this case, it's very, very possible and very similar to say Steve Huffman told. No problem. But there is a small difference between the two tenses. Okay. The verb is to support, and in the past simple, irregular, it's normally ed. For example, look, looked, support, supported. So this is the example of the past simple. So again, 3 different tenses in one sentence. Well, 2. And the aims of controversial subreddit Wall Street Bets. So the aim is also key. The verb is to aim, and it's similar enfocar in Espanol. So you have the pistol, and you aim the pistol. Okay. So it's like to enfocar, which is very similar to focus. But the substantive is the aim, like the objective. So your aim is to pass the exam. Your aim is to travel to Brazil. Your aim is travel to Romania. This is your objective. This is your focus. This is your target. So we have a lot of vocabulary for more or less the same significance. Aim, objective, target, goal. Okay? The aim, objective, the target, and the goal. So you can see the pronunciation is also very important, particularly for target. So sometimes people pronounce this incorrectly when you speak English, but some people say target, but in English it's target, 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 target. Similar to the verb to get. Okay. So the aim is the focus, and here in this case it's the aims. So he supported the objectives of the bets. Also, you need to be familiar with the verb to bet. And to bet is directly in Spanish apostar, I think. So in English we have the verb to bet or to gamble. So it's typical for sport and the casino. So the best example is the casino. You have €2 and you put the €2, you bet the €2. You hope you win the money, but it's possible you lose the money. It's a bet or a gamble. Okay, so these vocabulary are very, very common in English and typical in conversation in lots of different situations. So you decide to leave your job, you decide to quit your job. It's a big risk, it's a big gamble. Okay, so very common in vocabulary in conversation. And to bet is also very typical. For example, I bet it will rain today. And that significance is I believe, I expect, I anticipate it will rain today. I bet John will come to the party. I believe John will come to the party. So in conversation, it's very, very common. Okay. Here you have the hyphen. And I'll just make the screen a little bit bigger so hopefully everybody can see it a bit better. And I'll move, so that's better. Very, very good. So very, very big. You don't need your glasses maybe now. You can remove your glasses. Here we have a hyphen. So this hyphen in English, the function of the hyphen is to connect and combine two different words to make one word. So here we have two different words, long time, and it's very logical and very understandable, but you can connect the two words with the hyphen and now you have one word with one significance. Fan is supporter. So a fan is a supporter, number one, but also for the temperature. For imagine in Brazil at the moment, the temperature is 30 degrees. It's very hot in Brazil, so you need a fan. So the fan is the object that pushes the cold air. That's a fan. But it's the same significance for sport. You are a fan of Atletico Madrid. You are a fan of Real Madrid. This means that you support. The same concept as the air. You push the air, but to support the sport, you push your voice, you encourage, you motivate. So it's the same significance, fan. We also have an expression to fan the flames. So a flame, when you have a fire and the fire is very strong, you have the flame. So the flame is the vocabulary, and I'll show you the specific vocabulary here in the other languages. A flame in Bulgarian, Chinese, Dutch. So you see the translations here on the left: Hebrew, Italian, Korean, Polish, Malay, Portuguese, chama, Spanish, llama, okay, very similar, mato, Vietnamese, but we have no Indonesian or Filipino. So to fan the flames means to push air on the flame, and when you push air on the flame, you make the fire bigger. This is a metaphor for a situation. For example, an argument. If your friends have a discussion and your friends have an argument, but you fan the flame, so you make the situation worse. Okay. And there's another expression to add fuel to the fire, and the significance is to make the situation worse and to make the situation more difficult. And also you need to be careful the difference between worse and the worst, because this is a common confusion. And last night I spoke to my friend who has a very good level of English from Spain, and he made this little error, but I forgot to tell him. So maybe later today I will remind him. But the difference between bad, worse, and the worst, it's a common confusion and it's a common error. So bad is the adjective, worse is the comparative, typical worse than, and the worst. So the pronunciation of the T is very important. So to make the situation worse, okay, so it's bad at the moment, but you add fuel to the fire, you fan the flames, and you make the situation worse than before. Okay, so that is important and interesting. And here, that is a fan. So a long-time fan of the group, a long-time supporter. Subject, he. Irregular verb, so say in the present, said, irregular verb in the past. The next subject, so it's repetition. He said he had been. So that's an excellent example of the past perfect. He had been slow before he identified. So that's the past perfect, which is the period in the past before another action in the past. And the next action is to spot or to identify. Okay, so he had been slow in spotting. Very, very good example. Slow is obviously the opposite of fast, quick. You're slow. And again, spotting is to identify. And after the preposition, it's typical the ing. So he was slow in spotting. He was slow in eating. So typical, possibly after the in, I think it's the ing. The effect is the substantive. Okay, the effect is the substantive. You take the medicine, and the effect of the medicine is less pain. So it's a substantive. But this word is the possessive adjective. Remember, my hat, your hat, his hat, her hat, but in this case it's the company, and the possessive adjective of the company is its. And this is a typical error probably from Latin or from Portuguese or Spanish to English. You might say su effecto, which translates literally as his effect or her effect, but because it's a company in English, company is never masculine and it's never feminine in English. So a company or a city is its for possession. So that's a little detail, but very important. This is possession. Huge. Possession is with the apostrophe S. That's the structure with the rule with possession. Brian's pen, David's pen, Juan's pen. That's the rule in English. El boli de Juan, el boli de Fran, and el boli de Brian. So that's the rule in English. The pronunciation here is huge, huge, and the significance is enormous. Very, very common in conversation. We use it all the time. The building is huge. The person is possible. His reputation is huge, is enormous. So huge has the significance of enormous. Okay, so very, very important vocabulary. Huge is enormous. Share price. So here you can see the hyphen. So originally two words, but now it's one word combined. Share price is the adjective. Spike is the substantive. And yesterday I think we saw the word surge. So you remember yesterday a surge, which is very similar to spike. But last week we explained the vocabulary spiky hair. So typical for the boys hair is spiky. Okay, or you have the fence, valla in Espanol, and the fence has the spikes. And it's possible a person is very spiky. If a person is very spiky, like very aggressive. Okay, but a spike is like a quick increase, a dramatic increase. So in this case, it's the price spike or a price surge. Okay, in is for the preposition for the month, in January, in February, in March, in April. But for the day, we say on Monday, on Tuesday. But in is for the month, and very important. In is for the month, and on is for the day, and in is for the year. So you need to be also very, very clear. Or maybe the evening or the morning. We say in the morning, in the evening. That's important also. Okay, I was actually, so again it's the past simple, but actually is a false friend, because in Spanish actualmente significado in inglés in fact. Y en fact in Espanol is the hecho. So you need to be clear. In Portuguese, I don't know if you have the same confusion, and in other languages I don't know, but actually has the significance in fact. And the opposite word is currently. So I am currently in Dublin in relation to time at this moment. At this moment I am in Dublin. Currently I am in Dublin. Okay? Currently I am in Dublin. And actually it is very cold. So the significance is in fact. So yes, at the moment I am in Dublin in relation to time, but in reality, in fact, the hecho, it is very cold. Excuse me, okay. This expression, a little late to the party, is a fantastic expression, very common. So literal, you have the party starts at 8 o'clock and you arrive at 9 o'clock. So you literally are a little late to the party. But this expression is a metaphor for other situations. For example, technology, Instagram, Facebook. So recently I am using Instagram more and I am using the hashtags, all the detail, but I am a little late because everybody was using Instagram a long time ago. So I am a little late to the party. That's a very common metaphor in conversation. Very, very common. You're a little late to the party means you're a little slow to use the trendy or the very popular activity or technology. That's a very good expression. Realize. So remember, in the past, the rule in the past in the negative we say did not, but the rule, it's necessary the infinitive. So I go in the present, I went in the past. The negative of the past, I did not go. So that's important rule. The verb in the infinitive, to go, to eat. Okay, for example, I eat in the present simple. The past simple, I ate, irregular. But the past simple in the negative, I did not eat, with the infinitive. So that's an important rule. So the verb is to realize, and the significance of to realize is also a false friend, because in Espanol, maybe Portuguese, realizar has a different significance, because in English to realize in Spanish is darse cuenta. So darse cuenta in Espanol has the significance to realize, and the S is possible in the United States, and in the United Kingdom it's with the Z. And you can see my computer is not recognizing the United States for some reason. So the Z is in the United Kingdom and the S is in the United States. Okay, and the significance is darse cuenta. So I am working, and finally in the present I do not realize the time, I do not realize the problem. So very, very important. And I think in Espanol, realizar, for example, examen, yo realizo un examen, no sé, pero realizar an examen is possible in Spanish. In English, it's like to do. You do an exam. So be careful with this verb. It's very, very common in English, and it's very important. Also, the next verb is leak. So I didn't realize that Reddit had leaked, and I think my computer is a little slow, but the verb is to leak. Okay, and to leak is typical with water. For example, this room, I am in the room and here is the roof, okay, and it's raining and the water enters the room, and there is the significance, a leak in the room. So a leak is when water permeates, or when water enters or penetrates the room. That's the significance to leak. But of course today it's more common with WikiLeaks or with information. So obviously today with WikiLeaks is typical, but in the past with politics, with privacy, with secrets, it's very typical to have a leak. Okay, so somebody is telling the information to another person, so it's a leak. And there's another expression, a mole. So a mole is, I think, actually part of the body. When you have a mole on your body, it's the little brown piece of skin, that's a mole. But the significance is it's a person, a metaphor for a person who's listening to the information, and a person who is telling the information to people that should not understand, that should not have the information. So a mole is very similar to a spy, and it's very connected to a leak. Okay, so the verb is to leak, and here Reddit had leaked, so it's the past perfect. The verb is to leak, and the past perfect is had leaked, because it's the period of time in the past before the next action in the past simple. And I think my computer is a little slow. I don't know, my internet, the website is not working here, but you can see the vocabulary. I was a little late to the party because I didn't realize that Reddit had leaked into the real world again, he said. Ended up, so game shop share price ended up. That's a phrasal verb, to end up, and it's like in the final position. So for example, at the party, you go to the party in Dublin, you start in the restaurant, you go to your friend's house after, you go to a bar, and finally you end up in this place. So it's the final position, the final location, the final action. And here the share price was this position, this position, this position, but the final position was nearly 500. So it ended up nearly $500 before falling. Okay, I think yes, I think my computer has frozen a little. Maybe it's the weather, and I think my Zoom seems to have frozen. But one moment, and I'll press Control, Alt, and Delete, and I think this will help me solve the issue. I don't know if you can still see me or the screen. Okay, I think I'm back. Yes, I'm back. I hope you can still see me. So yes, that was the vocabulary. Had leaked is the past perfect. And I'll hopefully close this little box now because I don't need it. Thank you very much. Into the real world again. Okay, so we can continue a little. And here's another difficult example. So the Wall Street Bets is the name of the page, it's the name of the company, it's the name of the Reddit group, I think. Had been hyping up. So this tense is very, very difficult because I think it's the passive. So you have the verb to be, and you have the computer. So I think it's a difficult structure. I think it's the passive and it's continuous. But basically, you need to be familiar with this verb to hype and the substantive the hype. Okay, so the verb is to hype, and it's typical, the phrasal verb to hype up. Hype is very typical in the media. So for example, football, you have the player who is very popular, the player is very good, but the media, the newspapers, the commentators say this player is the best player ever, he's amazing, he's fantastic. So the media hype him up. So they increase his stories, they increase the media attention. So to hype up is this activity. For example, the restaurant, it's a new restaurant and everybody is saying, oh, it's fantastic, it's the best restaurant, you have to visit, you must visit. So people are hyping up the restaurant, and the substantivo or the noun is the hype. So the hype about the player, the hype about the restaurant, and here it's the group on Reddit were telling everybody that the price for the share was very low. So they were speaking a lot and making it very dramatic. So it's very, very good vocabulary to hype up. Here's the conditional if. So the idea was in the past simple, if users bought, so the verb is to buy, and the past irregular is bought. So buy in the present, bought in the past, irregular verb, and participle is also bought. So here it's the past simple. They could, remember could is a modal verb. So here we have the subject pronoun, I, you, he, she, we, you, they. Could is a possibility or an option. The next verb is drive, the infinitive is to drive, but remember after the modal we eliminate to. So they could drive up, they could increase the price. Hurting is very important as well. So the verb is to hurt, which is very similar to damage. And you also need to be clear, there is another verb as well, to pain. So to hurt is the verb. The boy hurt the other boy, like damage or cause pain. But the adjective is I am hurt. So it's possible a verb and it's possible an adjective as well. An important vocabulary for sure. So here it's the verb damaging. The significance is hurting or damaging the hedge fund. So a hedge in Spanish is like arbusto. So a bush and a hedge are very similar. A bush and a hedge. But in financial situations, you say to hedge your bets. And you remember to bet is apostar. So if you hedge your bets, you have €5. You place €1 on this team, €1 on another team, €1. It's like diversify. So you spread your bet. That's the significance to hedge your bets. So you have two offers for a party. You need to make a decision with your party. Do you go to this party or do you go to this party? And you wait and you wait. You are hedging your bets. Very difficult vocabulary, but very common expression. Who had bet. So there's a good example. Who is the subject. In this case, it's the relative pronoun. So we have who, which, and that. They are the relative pronouns. But in this case, it's who. Had bet is the past perfect. So it's usually before another action in the past. Who had bet against the company. Okay, good. Okay, that's I think sufficient for today. So I think that's nice. We have Maria's letter here that we can analyze. But if you want to practice your speaking, I think we've nobody in the group. Okay, so if you're still here and you want to participate, it's possible by the meeting ID or the passcode. You can join if you want. I put that here. And at the same time, I'll just continue with the letter because this letter is from Maria, and it's very, very good example of English. And I will start. So dear all, my name is Maria. I am 29 years old. That's very good and very important structure already. Because in Spanish you say tengo. Okay, but in English we say I have. And I'm just going to move this here so I can write a little bit. So first we say, in English the structure is different. We say I am 28 years old. And in Spanish it is tener. You say the verb to have. So it's very different in English. And here is an example, I was raised. That's a really good example. So you remember the difference to rise and to raise, and there is a big difference. So to rise is typical for the sun, the price, the temperature rises, but the person raises. I raise my hand, I raise a question, I raise an objection. So also it's possible with the children. If you are the parent, you can raise the child, and the significance is to educate or to give food or to give love. You raise the child, which has the same significance to bring up a child. Okay, so you can say to raise a child or to bring up a child. Okay, that's important. And this is the passive, because the parent raised Maria, but Maria was raised, so I was raised. That's an example of the active and the passive. Very, very good quality. I graduated in audiovisual communication. I specialized my studies in. Yeah, really good, because it's typical when you specialize in. That's the typical preposition, to specialize in. And I specialized my studies in audiovisual marketing after working. So normally with the preposition we say ing, before going, after going, without going, despite going. So the 3 or 4 words that are very common linked with the next verb in the ing. So let me show you. Before plus the ing, after is the same, without, despite. They're very, very good. Okay, so just quickly I will try to correct the small issues here. So after working as a marketing assistant in a little business, then I worked for an events company, very good, as an international trade technician, thanks to my English level, very good. I have been always interested in doing postgraduate studies, good. I think maybe capital letter possibly with postgraduate studies. I think you need a capital letter. I'm not sure, so just double check that. Postgraduate studies. And the experience of, yes, this was the little error that I saw yesterday. So the experience of being working. Okay, so in this situation it's the experience of having worked. So the correct structure would be the experience of having worked, or the experience of working would be the 2 correct structures. Here you can see at the top, in the marketing world and also events made me think about. So after the preposition about, the next verb is the ing. Think about going, think about having, think about eating. So for this reason it's necessary to think about studying. Okay, so I'll put that there. Think about studying is correct because it's necessary the ing after the about. And studying a master, related with that. It's possible related with, no problem, and related to is very typical as well. In 2018 I started a master in culture and music management. Music has been my passion since I was a child, very good. And the idea of, again, after the preposition we would say the idea of managing. Okay, so it's very similar to the other example, the idea of managing. So it's necessary the ing because we have the preposition of. So that's a very, very good example. And these are very, very small details, but they're very obvious and they're very, very important. After, where were we? Music had been, so yes, managing bands, artist was and still now one of my dreams, very good. However, it is not always easy to find a job related to what you love or earn the, again, the position of enough is very interesting. Okay, so enough is typically before the substantive. I have enough chocolate, I have enough water, I have enough time. So position of enough is usually before the substantive, but in this case I think it's related to the verb. And because money, it's not singular, and the concept of money, we would eliminate the. So you could say here, or earn enough money. So probably just eliminate the, I think is the best option, or earn enough money with it. So I had to rebrand myself, very good vocabulary. In 2019 I got the professional certificate in international marketing, trying to open, again this is a very interesting detail. So doors is the plural, so because it's plural we need other. Remember, another is for singular, another door, but other is for plural, to open other doors. Okay, and I think you can see that, everybody, with the text. Maybe I'll just make it a little bit bigger so you can see. Here, open. So this is necessary to be other doors. Okay, related to marketing, not only, very good. The culture and creative. This certificate allowed me to participate, really good, in a collaboration scholarship in a big company. Yeah, probably in the industry, I would say in. So the typical preposition with industry is in the industry. Okay, so scholarship in a big company in the food industry. I know you have repetition of in and in, but it is probably important. In that company, I worked as, very, very good, a packaging purchasing technician. It was a really good job, and it allowed me, really good, to be independent and live by myself. Excellent. So we have two possibilities, and this is very important: by myself or on my own. Exactly the same, very important. So I work by myself or I work on my own. I live by myself or I live on my own. Very, very good vocabulary and very good detail in this letter. Due to, fantastic. Yeah, really good. Debido a in Espanol. Due to the pandemic of coronavirus, probably we would normally say the coronavirus pandemic, because just a position. It's more typical to say the coronavirus pandemic. I lost, excellent. So the verb is to lose, and the past simple is lost. Very, very good. My job 2 months ago, really good. Hace 2 semanas, hace 2 meses. Most of my colleagues, really good. Spelling and pronunciation is important. Colleagues, really good. Got fired, excellent vocabulary, really good. Okay, so the verb is to fire. It's typical for the pistol, to fire, but in relation to business, the manager or the company fire the employee. So when you lose the job, the vocabulary, we say the company fire you or the company sack you. Okay, so sack and fire are very important, and I'm just going to close that and admit the person. So really good vocabulary. And the next part is the company flopped. So the verb to flop is totally understandable. It's probably informal. So to flop is when it's a disaster. No problem, we totally understand you here. But for a company, it's probably more formal. And for a company, you would say collapsed, or the company went bankrupt. But totally understand you would flop. I just would, personally, I would not use it myself in this case, but we understand you perfectly. Again, another singular, really good. Another opportunity, fantastic. To grow my career, really good. And of course, because everyone needs money to live, good. Okay, now I'll move down and I'll just remove the text. I'll clear everything. So this is a really good example of writing, and I hope everybody who is watching, you can produce your writing and you can send me your writing, because for me it's excellent. And just to finish the text, now obviously I'm looking, yeah, okay, good. I am open-minded, adjective, really good, to different markets and options. So I hope I find a job soon, really good. I think the pandemic has destroyed. That's a perfect example of the present perfect, because it started in the past. It's probably finished, but it's still a little relevant because it continues to destroy. That's the reason of the present perfect. Very good. A lot of allusions. So a lot of is plural, really good, excellent. And remember, life is singular, and really, really good, sadly, and many people lost their. So remember the difference between many and much. So because people are countable, one person, 2 people, we say how many people, really, really good. So here, much would be the error, really good. Lost their jobs, same as me. But the thing I most appreciate and thank. So here, normally we say for. The thing I most appreciate and I am grateful for, or I thank. So normally with the verb thank, you thank a person. I thank you, I thank him, I thank the situation, I thank the thing. So you need another pronoun or another object after thank. That's probably very important in that case. Is to keep my family together and my loved ones. Really good vocabulary. Job is something secondary. So just the spelling, it's necessary O, secondary. So you need to have SECOND. And here, the difference between work and job. So job is the substantive. So you can say my job is something secondary, or jobs in general. So you need an article, number one, or you could say work. So just a little correction with that, but not too bad. So everything is really, really good and super vocabulary. So well done. That is fantastic, Maria. That's super. And maybe now is the good opportunity to practice. So I see we have a participant. So Daniela, if you want to participate, just indicate or raise your hand, and I can try to connect on Zoom and we can practice some conversation if you want, or if you have any questions, you can take this opportunity to ask the question. So if you are ready and you want to participate, just make a message or put your hand up in the Zoom and I can connect to you, okay? So that's the meeting code. I don't know if we have people still watching, maybe not because it's very late, but thank you very much everybody. Remember, the social media is possible with Instagram, with Twitter, perfect, I see your hand, and YouTube. And remember, everything is free, and if you want to make a small contribution or a small donation to support me by €1, that would be very grateful, and I would be very grateful, and that would be very helpful. Remember, today we have another class at 4 o'clock, specifically related to the advanced. So thank you very much everybody, but now we'll try to connect with Daniela and we will practice a little speaking. So I think I've just asked, perfect. Daniela, how are you?
Oh, hello. I'm good. I'm doing good.
Good.
Basically, I just found, how can I say? Yeah, just to thank you for you doing what are you doing, because this helps a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm here in London for 3 months.
Okay.
And I'm being like au pair, so it's not very easy to find a course here in London like cheaper.
Yeah.
At the moment. So yeah, just to say thank you for you, because you are really helping me. I can talk about me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. That's really nice to have your message, and it's fantastic to have your feedback and to have your words and your compliments. So really, thank you so much. Is the class difficult for you sometimes? Is it difficult to follow?
Yeah, a little bit, not too hard, but there is some words that I don't know. But yeah, I'm here to learn, so
good.
Very helpful. Very helpful.
And what is your situation with English? Have you studied for a long time? Are you confident with English? You sound really good with English, but what's your opinion?
So no, for me, it's really hard. Now is my second time that I'm studying. I was here in London in 2017.
Yeah.
But it was very short. It was like 3 months. And now I just back again to try to be more fluently and maybe get a better job. So that's the reason I'm just practicing more. And
yeah. And what type of industry would you like to work in? I don't know, because like restaurants, cafes, or I don't know, what job would you aim for or focus for?
Yeah, so when I came, I was thinking about the tourism, but now with everything that has happened with the pandemic, I'm thinking to change my goal, because I like to work with children.
Yeah.
So maybe I will change for children again, to work with children in nurseries. Like this.
Okay, fantastic. And originally, what part of the world did you travel to London from?
So I traveled from Portugal. I'm living in Portugal with my parents, but I'm from Brazil. I'm actually from Brazil.
Okay, so that's fantastic. You have the best of every situation. You can visit Brazil when you want. You can visit Portugal.
Yeah.
Good.
That's true.
And life in London, how is life in London? I know the job as an au pair sometimes is difficult because it's a lot of stress with the children and the families, but sometimes it's very good as well. But London in general, is it a good place to live? Maybe it's very expensive.
Yeah, it's very expensive here. I'm in Surbiton, so it's a little bit far from the central. And now with the lockdown, I just enjoy it so much. But
Yeah. And are there a lot of people from Portugal in London?
Yeah, they are.
Okay, because I know people from Brazil come to London, come to Dublin, but Lisbon or Portugal is very close. Also, maybe 1 hour in the plane, maybe a little more.
Yeah, 2 hours.
Yeah. Okay, Daniela, thank you so much for taking the time to talk and to participate. I really appreciate it, and everybody can probably notice that you speak really, really well and super. So,
Okay.
I just want to say thank you as well for taking the time to connect and to participate.
Yeah, thank you so much for it. So.
You're very welcome. Okay, now I will just put you on mute, and again, I think we have, so if anybody wants to, I think we see Victoria, which is funny, to participate, that's fine. So maybe now is a good opportunity to finish the class, because I know we are here a long time, so I appreciate you for staying and for watching. I hope it was useful. Remember, today at 4 o'clock in Dublin we have another class specifically for the advanced exam. You need a ticket, so you need to, there's a small fee for the class at 4 o'clock in Dublin specifically for the advanced, and you can see the information on the page on the event section. Thank you again everybody very much. I hope you enjoyed the class, and again, everything is free, but if you want to make a small donation, it's possible here, a small tip or a small contribution, but it's only optional. And again, thank you all. And now we will finish on Facebook Live, but we will continue on Zoom if people want to practice a little for speaking. Okay, so you're welcome to join. Again, the code is here, and you can join whenever you want. Okay, so thank you very much, and have a good day, and talk to you soon.